listening to Combat Sports UK.
Combat Sports UK.
UFC Saudi Arabia went down at the weekend with Imavov getting a massive win over Israel Adesanya. Some big moments coming out of this card. We are here to do some matchmaking for you. We're going to kick off with the main event, Adesanya against Imavov. Who have you got for Imavov's next fight, Dan?
I think for Imavov, by all means, it's the biggest win of his career, and I think from now on he's one step away from that title shot. You think with a massive win like that over someone like Israel Adesanya, you're straight in for that shot. But I think with the fight happening within the end of this week, like I said, Strickland versus DDP, unfortunately, I think Dana has confirmed Hamzat winning in that fashion over Robert Whittaker, unfortunately, trumps Imavov, even though he did win in mightily impressive fashion. So I think for Imavov, he needs one more. And I think that may come from either you're looking at the loser of that main event in Australia. So UFC 312, DDP against Strickland. I've got DDP retaining his title, so I think it could be next year. Nassourdine, a rematch that Imavov would be raring to, get some revenge against Strickland. I think if Imavov performs like that against Sean Strickland, by all means, he can pick that win up and get him for the belt before the end of the year, I reckon. Now, I think obviously if you're not looking down that route, by all means, if Sean Strickland wins, DDP is most likely going to get a rematch for a trilogy fight. Then I think Calvarello is an excellent opportunity. Calvarello versus Nassourdine Imavov. I mean, look, if we're looking at UFC Paris, is always an amazing event. Imagine that as your main event. That would be something quite special. So I think, Imavov is Barallo, or I think it's the loser of that main event in UFC 312. I think that's next for him. But yeah, I think he's got one more before he gets a shot at gold.
I love that shout. Kai Barhalio against Imavov in France in the main event. What a fight that would be. A good title eliminator there. John, for Israel Adesanya, it was a tough night. It was the end of an era by all means. What do you do with him next? Does he hang around for one more?
Personally, as a guy who has been following Izzy, who's defended him against his Romero fights, his Whittaker fights, Cannonier, I do believe it's time for Izzy to retire. I think you're just past your prime. You lost 4 in your last 5. You got your revenge with Pereira finally. You lost to Strickland. You lost to Duplessis. You lost to now Imavov. So I think it's time to retire. I don't want to see him going the Anderson Silva route where he's going to get 6, 7, 8 losses in a row and then finally get cut, be forced to be cut. I know Izzy still look kind of good. He doesn't look like he's old or a step behind, but he just isn't him anymore. He's getting caught. His grappling game hasn't really got better in his career, and I think it's not what you're trying to look for. I know you said he wants to get a submission in one of his UFC wins, but I think it's just not it. If Izzy is to come back, speaking of Costa, I do think a rematch versus Costa would be fun. They were supposed to be scheduled, and then Costa was injured. He fought Romero. He fought Costa. Apparently, Costa has so many excuses that he has these. He drank a bottle of wine to help him fall asleep. It was during COVID. Izzy Costa would be a nice little stand-up fight, no threat of a takedown like he had against Drakus or even Nassourdine this weekend. So maybe a rematch will be it, and see if the results would be the same, especially with the little hatred towards who might ignite a fight in Izzy.
It's a fun matchup. It's one I don't think he needs, to be fair. But if he is to hang around, I think it's one that makes sense. Israel Adesanya, if you watch Combat Sports UK, just retire. Hang your gloves up, my friend. You've done enough. You've been a complete legend of this sport. You've conquered for a whole era in the middleweight division. Hang the gloves up, my friend. Hang the gloves up. I don't think anyone would be sad to see Izzy go at this stage before he just continues his downfall. Moving on to the co-main event, MVP against a very underwhelming fight. It became a bit of a point scoring match, which there always was a risk of happening. MVP come out with a very, very good win against the one-eyed pirate, Shara Bullet. John, who have you got for MVP in his next fight?
So MVP is a point fighter, right? It's like either he's going to be wrestled or he's going to have a kind of a boring fight, as we saw versus Gary, versus Holland, now versus Shara. So I maybe want to give him another point fighter like Wonder Boy. In his post fight, he said he wouldn't mind fighting Edwards. I don't see how that's a bad fight. You could give him the loser of Edward JDM, who's main eventing UFC London. That wouldn't be a bad fight. That will kind of bring him back in the rankings in the welterweight division, which we know he could still make the weight. If Edwards loses against JDM, I think it's a good all-out striking matchup. Leon will hopefully he bounces back from the Bilal fight. And if he does get 2 losses in a row, I guess a GDM a fight versus MVP will look good in the UK crowd, and I think everybody will turn out for there. Both strikers, Edwards could grapple and wrestle a little bit, but I think he would like to keep it on the feet, and it will be kind of harder to get to MVP. Or he could do the Gary route versus MVP, but I think MVP just looks good coming off this performance, and he has plenty of options. I just named 2 of them.
That is some great fights. One for the UK fans there, Leon Edwards against Michael Venom Page. What one they look forward to, that would be. Dan, for Mr. Shara Bullet, what does he do after suffering his first career defeat?
Well, I think it's a defeat that a few people saw coming, to be honest. I mean, I'm not one to say that I picked Michael Venom Page by decision, but hey, look, some people can, some people can't. But yeah, look, I think for Shara, it's a defeat some people have seen coming. Like I said, the wins he's had, they've had some asterisks next to them. Like you said, you've had wins where you think he didn't look too impressive. Like I said, obviously last time out before MVP was at Petrosian, and that was one of the best knockouts of the year. So there was a lot of hype behind him. I don't think this really stifles the hype. He's still got this aura that everyone talks about, you know, the one-eyed thing. He still is this Bond villain that everyone's terrified of. But give him another scary matchup. I think Cesar Almeida, like I said, come in from a similar striking background to Poatan himself, Alex Pereira. Like I said, his last win earlier this year, he fought in 2025 as well. It's a scary knockout of Razak Al Hassan. So I think for Cesar Almeida, like I said, it's an opportunity. He's only young in his career. I think it's about 7-1. But Shara Magomedov, like I said, I thought you're in the UFC now. It's not a case where you lose and you're fighting a guy with a negative record. I thought you're a tough matchup. Cesar Almeida is that. Like I said, he's an excellent striker. Again, Shara Magomedov, you don't want to see him in fights with Bo Nickel or these big heavy wrestlers. You want to see him in striking matches, unfortunately. Like I said, you can't pick and choose, but
it was just
they can at this point. Well, I think that's Michael Venom Page being the enigma that he is. Like I said, no one can work him out. He's like a puzzle that no one can solve. So I think, unfortunately, he just got found out there where he stunned headlights, is one of those things where he's just stuck, can't do too much about it. I think for Cesar Almeida is going to come in there and just try and take his head off his shoulders. Like it's none of this, flowing stuff. Cesar Almeida's got one hell of a left hook, and he's going to try and plant it on his chin. So I think for Shara Magomedov, it's a scary fight. But hey, look, you're in the UFC now, we're in the big leagues. Scary fight after scary fight, big fight. Look, if he can get into the US, excellent. If not, I'll see him in Abu Dhabi in October.
I think that's what he needs next. I think that's actually stylistically a better fight for him than the likes of MVP, who is more of a counter striker, and MVP was relying on Shara Bullet committing. They catch him on the counter. As you say, Almeida's not going to do that. He is going to come forward swinging at Shara Bullet. Good matchmaking there for sure. Next up, we've got the heavyweights, Pavlovich and Rosenstruck. Bitterly disappointing. I thought this was going to go one round maximum. 2 heavy-handed men. What a shit fight this was. I'm not going to lie. Dan, kick us off. Well, who is next for Jorginho Rosenstruck?
This is my guy. I've backed him ever since getting into the UFC. I was picking him against Ngannou, and then 20 seconds later I was like, oh God, what have I done? But yeah, look, I picked him again for this one. He let me down. It's not his fault. Pavlovich was boring. So hey, look, we'll move past it. Hey, look, it's Jairzinho Rosenstruck in the heavyweight division. He's beaten Tai Tuivasa. He's beaten a few others. Let's just give him Derek Lewis. I mean, Derek Lewis is a massive hitter. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, a massive hitter. This one,
sure distance.
That's what I was thinking. Surely this one can't do the distance. No, I think I think for Rosenstruck, he just stapled the division now. I think he's coming up to. I think he's over 10 fights in the UFC. Look, this is a guy. He's always going to be I can't say it anymore. I can't say he's always going to be in entertaining fights, but, it's heavyweight MMA. You're going to get someone who's going to get clipped on the chin. Sometimes it is Rosenstruck, sometimes he's doing it to other people. Derek Lewis is another example of that. That, number 5 down to 15, the heavyweight division, I mean, it's all much of the same. You're getting big guys that are going to clip each other on the chin. Sometimes you're going to get absolute stink fests. It's one of those things. I don't think Mick Parkin's going to do that. I think Mick Parkin's going to come in and blow the world away, especially in London. And then he could be next for Rosenstruck. But no, I think Rosenstruck, I got Derek Lewis. Like I said, we all like to see Derek Lewis fight. I like to see Rosenstruck fight. I don't know if anyone else does. But hey, look, Derek Lewis is my pick for him.
We might just see Derek Lewis turn to a grappler.
Hey, look, I think we'd all love to see that.
Derek Lewis doesn't do grappling, he just stands up.
That's true.
Yeah, well.
Pavlovich, what do we do with him?
So Pavlovich, he lost all his aura after losing to Aspinall and Volkov. We all know that. We had a white Francis Ngannou, and we were all like hyped about him. He got a two fight losing skid. He got dominated. I mean, he got knocked out by Aspinall, and then he got dominated by Volkov. And Volkov was on a crazy streak until he fought Gane. And I think we all agreed that it was a weird decision for that fight. We all thought maybe Volkov won. I had Volkov for 3 rounds, and you guys argued not all 3 rounds. But anyways, Volkov got robbed, and I think to avenge him should be his former training partner Pavlovich facing Cyril Gane. If you look also in the top 10 or top 5, it's the only guy Pavlovich hasn't fought, other than John Jones, let's say. But he's fought Aspinall, lost to. Gane's at rank number 2, coming off a win. He's there. He lost to Volkov. He beat Blades. So that's the top 6 right there, with Aspinall being the interim. So it's like you're trying to look up for him, trying to not look down the rankings. If you look up, there is Cyril Gane. I think he's still entertaining fight. We know UFC's going to be back in France. We already made Imavov versus Caio to be the main eventing at UFC France. As a co-main event, I think you can't hurt put Gane there with Pavlovich. Gane also lost a lot of his aura. To auraless fighters, something has to happen and gain their aura back.
That is a good fight, and I like the fact you're going to avenge Volkov's loss there. Volkov's loss. Yeah. I'm actually kind of raging. You reminded me about that, John. That was starting to leave me memory, that fight. It really pissed me off.
I think Volkov is the UFC probably would do something good with Volkov to give him somebody higher, but it's only Aspinall that's higher. But Gane, off a win like that, he's not getting a title shot. He's not getting a shot at the interim title with Tom. So you got to make him fight. Pavlovich has always been scary. You could also, if he wins a few more fights, Pavlovich could definitely get a rematch versus Aspinall down the line if he gets ever the full title. It's got to make fights that make sense. Coming off a win, you're not looking down. You don't want to give him a Spivak who just lost as well. So you're gonna give him a Cyril Gane.
That sounds like a plan. Now, moving on, Mystic Dan done it again. We do a sleeper fight series where we look at every UFC card and we pick out a sleeper fight, a fight that's going under the radar but is all the potential to steal the show. Mystic Dan went for Vinicius Oliveira against Sayed Nurmagomedov, and he was 100% correct because they came away with the fight of the night bonus. Who do you give Vinicius Oliveira, John? You
know what? I think you'd be a Nurmagomedov. I think a lot of people don't like the Dagestanis. I think you keep on the hate train. I think give him Mario Bautista. You just give him people don't give him fighters that people don't like. I think his performance against Aldo was atrocious. Low fight IQ, punchable face. I think Oliveira will have a field day with him, especially that you see Oliveira can grapple. This is back-to-back fighters that Oliveira out-grappled a grappler. Ricky Simon. When you beat Ricky Simon, you're on the cusp of the top 15. He's kind of a gatekeeper of the rankings. You beat Said Nurmagomedov in Saudi Arabia, and you look damn good at it. That you had a fight of the night. It was back and forth. You could take a shot. That's 3 fights, 2 fight of nights for him. I think
more like Mario Bautista,
so he can knock him out in the first round. You get a performance of the night. I think Oliveira's and the UFC love getting bonuses. That goes hand in hand. And I like his call versus Umar. I think it's a bit early because Umar just got a title shot. He'll get there. I feel like another Nurmagomedov will be in his fighting record. But Bautista, just to get everybody on his back, you want to see him knock out Bautista. Everybody's gonna love him even more. I love that.
Good to see that you're still holding that Jose Aldo win of Batista close to your heart, John. Proper order, because it was atrocious. Jose Aldo got robbed that night as well. I'm keep bringing up these fights that's annoying me here.
I was about to say that. I just, that's what I'm saying is the people are going to avenge these fights. We want to see these fighters lose, and then we literally got the people to do it for, who will do it for us.
Banging. Get you a job in the war room, making some matches for see.
I would love that. Dream job.
Before Nurmagomedov, what's next for him? Bit of a losing skip now.
I tell you what, I was actually quite impressed with him because, like you said, I believe it was you looking October 23, was the last time in the UFC octagon, a year plus of inactivity, and I was I was doubtful. Like I said, I picked Oliveira for decision, but I didn't think it would be as actual competitive as it was. I thought Saeed had brilliant moments. I think Oliveira did win, but yeah, I was impressed with him. Now, like I said, he did lose. Like I said, deservedly so. I think, look, there's a man on British soil who doesn't get any respect. Yeah, Davy Grant, give him a big name and let him
Mr. Dangerous.
Let him get his big win and bring him back to the UK. He needs to fight in the UK. Again, he's probably not going to make it on the London card, but why can't we come back to the UK twice a year? Let's just bring him back in the summer. Davy Grant, give him a shot against Said Nurmagomedov. Like I said, Nurmagomedov, I think he was 14th ranked. He may drop out of the rankings now. Davy Grant has been on the fringe of the rankings, I think, for God knows how long. Like I said, Davy Grant deserves this opportunity. He's just come off of a good win. Like I said, he has been a bit on and off, but look, Davy Grant on the back of a win, Said Nurmagomedov on the back of a loss, I think it just makes sense. I think it's something Davy Grant's earned. Like I said, he's gone to war with a lot of these fighters. He's brought out amazing performances. I mean, that reverse inverted triangle was unbelievable. Like I said, the submission of the year. Davy Grant is a man that I think we all love. He always is in excellent fights. And look, against Said Nurmagomedov, that's a name. That's a name for Davy Grant to scalp in London in July, not in March, but to scalp in London. And look, I just love Davy Grant. I'm your casual British MMA enjoyer. I'm a fan of Davy Grant, and I want him to get his big opportunity. So Davy Grant's my pick for Said Nurmagomedov. And for Said Nurmagomedov, I'm not throwing him to the Wolves. Like I said, I'm not throwing him to like Peyton Talbot or something like that. Davy Grant is a tough, tested veteran. He's got wins and losses. So there's a way to beat him, but I'm backing Davy Grant. That's my guy.
Why would you not after that last performance?
Exactly.
Unbelievable. What a great performance that was by Davy Dangerous Grant. Moving on then to Faraz Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Ziam, once he gets his knee recovered, because I don't know how the hell he did not tap that knee bar that was on, which felt like for a full round. Tried to show it to the fiance earlier. I was like, look at his leg, and she refused to watch it. That is how gross it was. But he didn't tap. What do we do next with him?
For Ziam, so he's on a relatively good streak, right? Lightweight, he's kind of quiet, right? He's kind of like on a UFC card, UFC Paris card, and he fights like Frolova. He's a subtle fighter, I would say. And he's on a 5-fight win streak, only one of them coming by finish. And overall in his last 8 fights, he has 7 wins. The only guy who he lost to is also on the card is Terrence McKinney. McKinney, you either finish him in the first round or you lose to him in the first round. And it's not a bad way to lose to McKinney. You kind of just want to ignore that fact. So if I was ZM, I would prepare him for the top 15. There's a newly ranked top 15 guy, Grant Dawson. I think it's a fun fight. They're both kind of stand-up. Dawson he kind of had a main event with Bobby Green and he lost, and then he went on to win the next fight. And it's kind of like a weird moment for him in his career. If not, there is a tarantula we haven't seen since April of last year. He lost to Manny Moicano, and I think kind of that loss just kind of looks good now because Moicano just came off a title shot and a sudden title shot, but Turner could have finished him. He hasn't fought him in a long time. He's also ranked. I think Turner's due for a fight. ZM is looking like he's ready for the rankings. I think Turner will be a good test to see where he is actually at in the lightweight rankings versus a tall guy who's coming off a loss and also in the rankings. I think just somebody could get him into the rankings from the 10th to 15th spot, or even 11th to 15th. So Dawson or Turner would be a good step up in competition for ZM and see where he's actually ranked in the lightweight world. Especially, he's not like super exciting fighter, right? But he did finish Frolova excitingly. He's kind of split 5 knockouts, 5 submissions, and then he has 7 decisions in his career. So he's very like even kill fighter kind of. He can do it all.
That KO of Mark Frivola counts as like 5 KOs because that was nasty. That would maybe be the tallest lightweight fight in history. 6'2" Jalen Turner taking on 6'1" ZM. I would love to see it. 2 of the tallest lightweights in the roster. The loser of this battle then was Mike Davis. He showed some good grappling, as I said when I started. This fight, that knee bar, there was many a fighter would have tapped out there. I definitely would have tapped. It looked absolutely gross. What do you do?
I was tapping at home.
Yeah, I think for Mike Davis, he's one of those again. It's a bit of an, like I said, he's been off for some time. He said come back in. I think he fought Natan Levy, good win there, and like I said, come then into this fight. Oh, one of my main first memories of watching Mike Davis was against Mason Jones. Now that's not just because I'm a British fight fan, but that was Mason Jones' debut in the UFC, and it was an amazing fight. From what I remember, it was fight of the night, and Mike Davis picked up that win there. You picked up the decision. I scored it for Mason Jones, of course I would. But yeah, like I said, it was one of those. It was one of those really, really close fights. Now, like I said, for Mike Davis, again, it's a really gutsy performance. Again, he's gonna have these performances throughout his career. He's really, really tough. Now, I think for Mason Jones, now this is the opportunity to get Davis versus Jones too, because for Mason Jones now, may if you're not caught up with the Cage Warriors scenes, Mason Jones is now 4-0 outside of the UFC. He's well earned his right to come back right into the UFC, and someone like Mike Davis, why would you not want to see Davis versus Mason Jones too? I think Mike Davis, like I said, this performance here, a really gutsy performance, and it's not a performance where you looking old and withered. By all means, he was. I scored that second round for him. Like I said, he had a knee bar on for basically 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It was mental. So I think for Mike Davis, by all means, I don't think, like I said, you can throw him in with someone huge. Like I said, there's Oralby is another really popular lightweight who's outside of the rankings. I think that's a great opportunity. They're always in fun fights. So for Mike Davis, he's one of those fighters. It's like Drew Dober. When you just throw him in fights because you're going to get a great scrap. So I think Mason Jones is our British version of that. So we'll throw him into the ring. And like I said, Mason Jones versus Mike Davis 2. Again, on that UFC London that's happening in July that I've completely made up. Let's do that. Like I said, Mason Jones deserves it. He deserves to come back into the UFC. Mike Davis, like I said, he fancy himself. He's beaten him once. Why can't he beat him again? It was a great first fight. I'd love that as a second chance for Mason Jones back into the UFC against the man he lost his debut against. So yeah, I think Mike Davis, Mason Jones 2. That's my pick next for Mike Davis. If they want to look inside the UFC, we'll go to Oralby.
Look outside the UFC. Let's get Mason Jones back in. He does deserve it. 4-0 since being cut or leaving the UFC. And what a story that would be as well. Like, would there be a better start he could get off to in his second tenure in the UFC if he was to beat the guy that beat him in his last UFC debut in his first tenure? That would be a pretty cool way to start his UFC career again if he does get the shot. That brings us to the end of this matchmaking video. Make sure that if you like this content, to like, share and subscribe, and follow Combat Sports UK on all social medias, and hit the bell so you get a notification when the next video goes live. Thank you, and we shall see you in the next one.